Arcane Atlas Legends.
Lost Worlds Eternal Stories. In the barren desert of southern Peru, a secret stretches across the land. Lines so vast they can only be seen from the sky. Colossal shapes of animals, birds, and geometric designs lie etched into the earth, carved with precision thousands of years ago. To stand at ground level, they seem meaningless, just shallow trenches in the soil. But from above, they form hummingbirds with outstretched wings, monkeys with spiraled tails, spiders, and even what looks like an astronaut gazing at the stars. Who created these mysterious figures? What purpose did they serve? Were they calendars, maps, or messages to gods watching from the heavens? The Nazca Lines are not simply art. They are a riddle carved into the earth itself, an enigma that refuses to fade. As the desert sun rises, their silent shapes whisper questions across millennia, daring us to seek their meaning. The Nazca Desert is one of the driest places on Earth. It receives less than an inch of rain per year. Its winds are calm, its climate stable. This unique environment has preserved the lines for over 1,500 years. Shallow trenches, only 10 to 15 centimeters deep, remain etched into the soil as if time itself dared not disturb them. The ground is covered with dark pebbles coated in iron oxide. When removed, the lighter soil beneath is revealed, creating bright pathways that stand out against the desert surface. To an ancient observer, the desert was not empty. It was canvas, a sacred ground where gods could see what humans carved. This natural preservation is what makes the Nazca Lines possible. In any other climate, they would have been erased long ago. Here, in a desert of silence and stillness, they endure like whispers frozen in stone. The people who created these lines were the Nazca, an ancient culture that flourished between 200 BCE and 600 CE. They were skilled farmers, engineers, and artisans. They dug underground aqueducts called puquios to channel scarce water. They painted vivid pottery with images of gods, shamans, and animals. Yet they left behind no great stone cities like the Inca, no towering monuments like Egypt. Their greatest legacy was drawn not upward, but outward, onto the desert itself. For the Nazca, the earth was sacred. To carve into it was an act of devotion, a way of binding human life to divine order. Every line, every figure was more than art. It was prayer etched on a cosmic page. The Nazca transformed the desert into scripture, one that we are still learning to read. How could a people without advanced tools create such enormous and precise figures? The answer lies in simplicity. The Nazca removed the top layer of dark pebbles to reveal lighter earth beneath, creating clear contrast. They used wooden stakes and ropes to mark straight lines. By scaling up drawings from small grids to larger ground plans, they could create animals hundreds of meters long. No mystery machines, no alien technology, just ingenuity and devotion. Archaeologists have reconstructed their methods, proving they required only organization and patience. But the true marvel is not how they did it, but why. The figures were so vast they could not be fully seen from the ground. They were meant for someone or something watching from above. That choice hints at deeper purpose. These were not human decorations. They were divine messages, carved for eyes in the sky. Among the most famous of the Nazca Lines are two extraordinary figures, the hummingbird and the monkey. The hummingbird stretches over 300 meters, wings extended as if in eternal flight. In Andean mythology, hummingbirds symbolized resurrection and the power to bring rain. Its presence on the desert floor was perhaps a plea to the gods for water and renewal. Nearby lies the monkey, coiled tail spiraling into infinity. The monkey was associated with fertility, cycles, and the celestial order. Its spiral tail mirrors the galaxies above, connecting desert to sky. Both figures reveal the Nazca worldview. The earth was not separate from heaven, but mirror of it. By carving animals sacred in myth, they invited divine forces into daily life. These shapes were not random. They were prayers large enough to touch the horizon. Among the most puzzling of all geoglyphs is the so-called astronaut. Etched onto a hillside rather than the desert plain, the figure appears human, yet its head is round, almost helmet-like, with wide eyes staring outward. One arm points upward, the other downward, as if signaling between heaven and earth. To archaeologists, it may represent a shaman or deity, an intermediary between worlds. In Andean culture, shamans wore masks and headdresses that transformed them into beings beyond human. But to others, especially modern enthusiasts of ancient astronaut theories, the figure is unmistakable, proof of contact with beings from the stars. Whether shaman, god, or something else, the astronaut embodies the Nazca's attempt to reach beyond themselves. It is both human and otherworldly, carved on a scale visible across horizons. In its wide eyes and raised hand, we glimpse the eternal question, who was watching from the sky? Beyond the animals and figures, the Nazca carved an even greater mystery: geometry. Straight lines stretch for kilometers across the desert, cutting perfectly level paths that run to the horizon. Triangles open like sunbeams, trapezoids fan out as if guiding flight. Spirals twist endlessly, circles overlap in cosmic harmony. To walk these lines is to feel disoriented. On the ground, they appear as nothing more than long dirt tracks. From above, they reveal order and purpose. Were these giant runways for the gods? Or did they mark processional routes for rituals performed on Earth? Their scale defies simple explanation. Some are so straight they remain aligned across uneven terrain, as though traced by rulers a mile long. In geometry, the Nazca expressed more than art. They expressed cosmos itself. The desert became grid, diagram, and sacred map, drawn for eyes beyond the human view. Many archaeologists believe the lines were not meant to be seen from the sky, but to be walked upon. Evidence shows that groups of people processed along the paths, wearing down soil with their steps. The lines may have been ceremonial walkways, routes of pilgrimage, or avenues of prayer. Imagine hundreds of Nazca villagers walking in silence across the desert, carrying offerings, chanting songs, tracing sacred patterns with their very bodies. The act of walking transformed the desert into ritual space. Each step was devotion, each pathway a dialogue with the gods. In this view, the Nazca lines were not pictures for the eye, but experiences for the soul. They were lived symbols, prayers written not in ink, but in movement. Thus, the desert was both canvas and stage, a place where humanity could enact its relationship with the divine. One of the earliest theories about the Nazca lines came from Maria Rieke, a German mathematician who devoted her life to studying them. She argued the lines were an astronomical calendar, aligning with solstices, equinoxes, and constellations. The long, straight lines, she believed, pointed to rising or setting stars. The figures themselves, the hummingbird, the monkey, the spider, were connected to constellations in the Andean sky. Her meticulous measurements mapped lines to celestial events, suggesting the Nazca carved the desert as mirror of the heavens. Critics argued her alignments were too broad to be precise. Yet her vision captured the imagination of the world. Whether or not her conclusions were exact, she gave the Nazca lines a cosmic voice. She made them not just art or ritual, but astronomy etched in earth. In her dedication, sleeping under the desert sky with nothing but a lantern and tape measure, Maria became guardian of the lines themselves. Another theory focuses not on the stars, but on water, the most precious resource in the Nazca Desert. Some lines may mark underground aquifers, pointing toward hidden sources of life. Others could be symbolic prayers for rain, their shapes invoking fertility and abundance. The spiral monkey tail might echo whirlpools, the hummingbird rainbringer. Geometric trapezoids could channel ritual processions toward water shrines. Archaeological evidence shows that the Nazca practiced ceremonies linked to water and fertility. Offerings of shells, textiles, and pottery were found buried along the lines. In a desert where survival depended on rain, to carve prayers into the earth was both practical and spiritual. The lines may have been messages not only to gods above, but to forces beneath the soil. Water theory reminds us the Nazca Lines were not abstract mysteries. They were lifelines of hope, drawn across a thirsty world. For many scholars, the most compelling explanation is spiritual. The Nazca believed their gods resided in the sky. By carving colossal figures only visible from above, they inscribed prayers meant for divine eyes. The hummingbird, bringer of rain; the monkey, symbol of fertility; the condor, messenger between earth and heaven. Each shape was invocation, each line was offering. The desert became an altar on which the Nazca wrote their devotion. Where we see geometry, they saw dialogue. To kneel in the dust and carve with simple tools was to speak with gods of sun, moon, and water. The scale itself was worship, gestures so vast that only heaven could comprehend them. In this view, the Nazca Lines are not puzzles for us to solve, but prayers we overhear, echoes of conversations between mortals and the divine. Not all theories are so grounded. In the 1960s, author Erich von Däniken popularized the idea that the Nazca Lines were built for visitors from the stars. To him, the immense straight lines resembled runways for spacecraft. The astronaut figure was not shaman, but literal alien. The desert canvas was not prayer, but navigation grid. Archaeologists dismiss these claims as fantasy. No evidence supports extraterrestrial landings. The lines, when walked, show wear from human feet, not machines. Yet the idea caught fire in popular imagination. Books, films, and television spread the vision of Nazca as airport for gods. Though unlikely, the theory persists because it resonates with mystery. It reflects our desire to see in ancient works a connection to something beyond Earth. Whether credible or not, the alien runway theory transformed Nazca into global legend, where science and speculation dance endlessly together. The Nazca culture flourished for centuries, but around 600 CE, it declined. Evidence suggests ecological disaster. Deforestation of river valleys, combined with long drought, eroded soil and destroyed harvests. The people who carved prayers into earth could not prevent famine from the sky. As society fractured, their rituals lost power. The desert, once carved with faith, became abandoned ground. But the lines remained. The dryness of climate preserved them long after their makers disappeared. The Nazca people faded into history, absorbed by neighboring cultures. Yet their geoglyphs survived, silent testimony of vanished devotion. This paradox is haunting. Their prayers for rain did not save them, but their prayers endured. The Nazca themselves vanished, yet their voices remained etched into earth. Messages meant for gods, now heard only by us. For centuries after, travelers passed through Nazca without realizing the scale of its lines. At ground level, they were invisible, mere shallow paths across sand. It was not until the 1920s, when airplanes flew over the desert, that the figures were revealed in full. Pilots looked down and saw animals stretching across kilometers, geometry spreading to horizon. The world was stunned. Archaeologists rushed to study what seemed impossible. How could ancient people create designs that could only be seen from the sky when they themselves could never fly? The rediscovery was revelation. Humanity had overlooked one of its greatest monuments for centuries. Nazca Lines entered global consciousness not when they were made, but when flight gave us divine perspective. Ironically, only modern eyes in the sky revealed what ancient prayers had written for gods above. No one devoted more to the Nazca Lines than Maria Rieke, a German mathematician who arrived in Peru in the 1930s. She dedicated her life to measuring, mapping, and protecting the desert's secrets. Armed with nothing more than measuring tape, compass, and notebook, she traced every line, cataloged every figure. She believed passionately that the lines were astronomical calendar, a message from Earth to cosmos. For 50 years, she fought to preserve them, guarding them from roads, looters, and careless visitors. She lived in a small desert hut, often sleeping beside the lines themselves. Locals called her the Lady of the Lines. Her tireless advocacy led UNESCO to declare Nazca Lines a World Heritage Site in 1994. Maria Rieke proved that devotion to mystery is itself a kind of worship. Her life became as much a legend as the lines she loved, guardian of a desert scripture still unread. Today, the Nazca Lines face threats not from time, but from humanity. Roads cut dangerously close to geoglyphs. Tourist footprints, careless vehicles, even illegal mining leave scars across the desert canvas. In 2014, a truck veered off the Pan American Highway, leaving deep tire marks across a trapezoid. The damage was irreversible. The lines survive not because they are indestructible, but because nature preserved them. Now, human activity poses what erosion never could: sudden destruction. Archaeologists and governments struggle to protect them, erecting viewing towers, restricting access. But the desert is vast, and lines spread across hundreds of square kilometers. Each mark is fragile prayer from antiquity, one careless step away from loss. The challenge of modernity is not just to study Nazca, but to defend it. So whispers carved into sand 2 millennia ago do not vanish under wheels of progress. Despite fragility, the Nazca Lines have become global icon. They appear in films, novels, video games, even fashion. Their enigmatic shapes capture imagination across cultures. For Peru, they are national treasure, a symbol of indigenous ingenuity and sacred heritage. For the world, they are a puzzle that belongs to all humanity. Pilgrims, scholars, and tourists alike flock to Nazca, seeking to stand in presence of the inexplicable. Like the pyramids of Egypt or Stonehenge in England, the lines transcend time. They are not just archaeological site, they are stage on which myth and science collide. Every culture projects its own story upon them. Messages to gods, maps of stars, airports for aliens. The desert drawings endure not only as ancient prayers, but as mirrors reflecting our modern obsessions. In Nazca, we see not only past, but ourselves. Modern technology has revealed more of the Nazca Lines than ever before. Drones and satellite imagery have discovered hundreds of new figures, small animals, humanoid forms, complex geometry invisible from ground. Artificial intelligence now maps and classifies designs, expanding our knowledge daily. Yet with every discovery, mystery deepens. Why were some figures hidden? Why so many shapes across such vast space? Science explains technique, measures alignments, dates artifacts, but science cannot extinguish myth. Instead, it coexists with it. For every new geoglyph documented, a new story arises, of gods, spirits, ancestors, or visitors from beyond. The Nazca Lines live in tension between knowledge and wonder. Their value lies not in being solved, but in sustaining curiosity. Science gives us data, myth gives us meaning. Together they keep the lines alive, not relics, but living questions etched into earth. What can the Nazca Lines teach us today? That even in harshest landscapes, humans seek to connect with forces greater than themselves. That survival is not only about water and crops, but about meaning. The Nazca could have left pottery, tools, and homes, but they chose to inscribe messages on the land itself for gods or eternity. Their lines remind us that human spirit is vast. We long to be seen, heard, remembered. We carve prayers into desert, paint stars into sky, write names into stone. The lesson of Nazca is humility. Civilizations rise and fall, but what we create in search of meaning may outlast us. Their fate warns us of fragility. Their lines inspire us with resilience. The desert speaks still if we learn to listen. As the sun sets over the Nazca Desert, shadows stretch across ancient lines. The hummingbird's wings darken, the monkey's spiral fades, the astronaut's gaze melts into twilight. Yet from above, their figures remain, silent, eternal, messages still shining against the barren earth. For 2,000 years, these geoglyphs have endured storms, droughts, and time. They outlived their makers. They now belong to us. We cannot know with certainty why they were carved. Were they calendars, maps, prayers, or cosmic runways? Perhaps they were all these, or none. But their mystery is their gift. They remind us that not all questions must be answered. Some must simply be asked across generations. The Nazca Lines endure as whispers to the gods, etched into desert, echoing into sky. And perhaps in listening to them we hear not only the past, but our own longing to touch the eternal.